What many analysts called a matter of when, not if, has happened. In one of the most significant military operations in modern Middle Eastern history, the United States and Israel have launched a coordinated, large-scale military assault targeting sites across Iran, including the capital, Tehran. Tonight, we break down everything. What happened, why now, what was hit, and what comes next. Stay with us. This one changes everything. Let's start with the facts as we know them. In the early hours of the morning, Israeli Air Force jets, reportedly accompanied by long-range U.S. Air Force assets, executed a sweeping wave of airstrikes across multiple Iranian cities, the primary target, Tehran. But the strikes didn't stop there. Reports are coming in of explosions near Natanz, the heavily fortified underground nuclear enrichment facility. Isfahan, home to one of Iran's largest air defense networks, has also been hit. And Fordow, the deeply buried enrichment site carved into a mountain, sources are now confirming significant damage there as well. The operation appears to have been months, possibly years, in the making. Satellite imagery reviewed in the hours since the strikes shows craters, fires, and what appears to be the complete destruction of at least 3 key military installations. On the outskirts of Tehran, this is not a limited strike. This is not a warning shot. This is a full-scale military campaign, and the world woke up to a very different Middle East this morning. To understand today, you have to understand the years of tension that led to this moment. Iran's nuclear program has been the central flashpoint. Despite international negotiations and repeated diplomatic efforts, Tehran continued advancing its uranium enrichment, reaching levels that Western and Israeli intelligence agencies warned were dangerously close to weapons grade. The Israeli Prime Minister's office had made it explicitly clear a nuclear-armed Iran was, in their words, an existential threat, and Israel would act, with or without international consensus. On the U.S. side, the administration faced immense pressure. Intelligence reports circulating among senior officials reportedly concluded that Iran was weeks, not months, away from having enough enriched material for at least one nuclear device. And so that timeline, described as a red line in classified briefings, appears to have been the trigger. Add to that the proxy conflicts. Iranian-backed militias across Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, and Yemen had been escalating attacks on U.S. and Israeli assets for years. The assassination of key regional figures, cyber attacks on Israeli infrastructure, and direct missile salvos, the pressure cooker had been building. Then came the final catalyst. Intelligence intercepts, which U.S. officials are now referring to publicly, indicated Iran was preparing an imminent large-scale attack on Israeli population. Centers, possibly involving ballistic missiles and drone swarms, coordinated with Hezbollah in Lebanon, that intelligence officials say made waiting no longer an option. The decision was made, the operation was greenlit. Now let's talk about the military operation itself, because the scale and sophistication of what was deployed is unlike anything we've seen before in this region. Israel's role centered on its Air Force F-35I ADR stealth fighters, capable of evading Iran's Russian-supplied S-300 air defense systems. These jets flew through carefully coordinated corridors, some reportedly passing through Saudi and Jordanian airspace, a detail that's going to have enormous diplomatic consequences. But here's the key piece: bunker-busting munitions. Iran built its most critical nuclear sites deep underground precisely because they feared this day. The U.S. supplied and potentially directly deployed GBU-57 massive ordnance penetrators. These are the most powerful non-nuclear bunker busters in the American arsenal, weighing 30,000 pounds each. They are designed to punch through 200 feet of reinforced concrete. Only the B-2 Spirit stealth bomber can carry them, which means, and let this sink in, U.S. B-2 bombers were almost certainly involved in this operation. Targets confirmed or reported so far include the Natanz fuel enrichment plant, the Fordow fuel enrichment plant, the Isfahan Nuclear Technology Center, the Parchin military complex, and the IRGC aerospace headquarters outside Tehran, and multiple air defense radar installations across the country. Iran's air defense system, while sophisticated, was clearly overwhelmed or degraded before the main strikes. electronic warfare assets likely played a major role in blinding Iranian radar in the opening minutes of the assault. This was a layered, synchronized operation, cyber, electronic, and kinetic all at once. Iran has not been silent. Within hours of the strikes, the supreme leader issued a statement vowing devastating revenge language that is strong even by Tehran's standards. The Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps has gone to its highest state of alert. We are already seeing reports of ballistic missile launches from Iranian territory. Early indications suggest some were aimed at Israeli territory, and Iron Dome and Arrow defense systems have been activated. The Israeli Home Front Command has issued shelter-in-place orders for major cities. Hezbollah in Lebanon has reportedly begun firing rockets into northern Israel. A second front appears to be opening. And in the Strait of Hormuz, one of the world's most critical oil shipping lanes, Iranian naval vessels are maneuvering in ways that suggest a potential blockade or confrontation with U.S. Navy assets in the region. Oil markets have already reacted violently, crude prices spiking over 15% in after-hours trading. The region is not just reacting, it is mobilizing. The international response has been swift and deeply divided. The United States government has confirmed its involvement, framing the operation as a necessary act of preemptive self-defense, citing both the imminent nuclear threat and the intelligence on planned Iranian attacks. The president addressed the nation, stating that American forces acted to prevent a catastrophic escalation and that all efforts to achieve a diplomatic resolution had been exhausted. The United Kingdom and France have called for immediate de-escalation, careful not to condemn the strikes outright, but clearly alarmed by the scope. Russia and China have issued sharp condemnations, Russia calling it a criminal act of aggression and demanding an emergency UN Security Council session. And that session is now scheduled for later today. The Arab world is fractured. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Bahrain, nations that quietly have feared a nuclear Iran themselves, have issued carefully worded statements that stop short of condemnation. Others, like Qatar, have been more vocal in their criticism. At the United Nations, the Secretary General has called the situation gravely alarming and urged all parties to step back from the brink. So where does this go from here? 3 scenarios are emerging in the analysis community. Scenario 1, rapid escalation. Iran retaliates heavily. Hezbollah opens a full front in Lebanon. Houthi forces in Yemen intensify attacks on shipping. Iranian proxies in Iraq attack U.S. bases. The region is pulled into a broader, multi-front war, one that could draw in Gulf states and test every alliance in the region. Scenario 2, controlled exchange. Iran retaliates, but calibrates its response to avoid triggering a ground war strikes on Israeli territory, cyber attacks, economic disruption, painful but contained. Both sides absorb damage and then, under enormous international pressure, agree to a ceasefire framework. Scenario 3, internal collapse. This is the scenario Israeli and U.S. strategists may be quietly hoping for. The scale of the military embarrassment, the destruction of nuclear sites, and Iran spent decades and billions building proves. Politically devastating for the Iranian regime. Internal unrest already simmering boils over. The regime faces a legitimacy crisis. History tells us these scenarios rarely play out cleanly. What's certain is this: the Middle East has entered a new chapter, and the decisions made in the next 72 hours will shape the next 70 years. We will continue covering this story around the clock as it develops. If you're new here, subscribe and hit the bell. Share this video. This is a moment history will remember, and people deserve accurate, clear information. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Where do you think this goes? What should happen next? I am Alice. Stay informed, stay safe. We'll see you in the next update.